Bonnie Best, and she's 100 years old next year. We're having one big party.
You hear so much talk about food, local food, sustainability, ecology, all these terms. And when you talk about seeds, people say, oh, seeds. And that is the beginning of sustainability. That is where food begins. And without that beginning, the other terms are kind of meaningless. Somebody said, well, what about the market? You know, are you concerned about local food? Do you buy locally? Do you buy organic? This is big terms: organic, ecology, ecological growing, and all this sort of thing. I said I would ask if that food was grown from open pollinated seed, and that to me would be the most important question to ask if you're interested in sustainability.
Another nice one, nice for seed.
Hardest part about being a seed saver is making decisions. You have to decide what to keep, what to discard or eat, and what time to do that in. So it's really, really difficult.
We're losing our genetic diversity at the very worst time in human history. We're losing it at a point where we're seeing rapid climate change, or climate chaos is probably a better way to describe it. And we don't know what we're going to need in the future. We have no idea. All we know is that things are going to change pretty rapidly over the next few decades in terms of temperature rise, sea level rise, in terms of shifts of patterns of pests and diseases, the needs for crops to migrate either up the mountainside or towards the polar regions to survive. All that's going to happen in the next few decades, which means that we need all of the possible genetic diversity we can get our hands on in order to do more plant breeding in more diverse ways with more diverse crops than ever before. If we don't have access to that genetic diversity, if it's not there, if it's just stored in gene banks or lost, then we're really in trouble.
See how this grows like this? This is your best seed. And that's true of almost everything. It will grow this way, and this is your leader, and that will be the strongest seed. You can take these, but it won't be as good seed. With basil seed, you cannot wait until it all like this, because we've lost the seed from that. So you wait until it's half brown and half green.
All the people said things didn't taste like they used to, and they were always making comments. But then the more we looked at it, the more there was a bigger selection back there in their time, like in the 30s and 40s and even earlier than that. We would go to reorder seeds from catalogs. We tried to select only a few, but every time we went back, the seeds weren't there. And they were good performing, so we couldn't figure out why they weren't there, because I thought everybody had them. Turned out nobody had them.
30 years ago, there were according to FAO estimates, there were 7,000 different seed enterprises, public and private, from which you could buy seeds around the world. Today, 30 years later, we have 10 companies that control 55% of the global seed market. The biggest three seed companies, which are DuPont and Monsanto and Syngenta, are also the world's three biggest herbicide companies. So that all goes together. And that kind of concentration is really a threat to seed diversity, to biological diversity in crops.
There's over 100 tomatoes and probably about 75 beans and 45 potatoes.
About 27 lettuces. Most of those are very old. Peas are extremely old. We have dates for all the peas now. And so there's a lot of, and then there's the flowers that we grow, and then the herbs that we grow. And those are big for pollinators. They're growing about the same vintage. It's all in the same kind of space of time. So they're drawing in a lot of the small insects that we need.
At the bottom of these guys, this is not in the greatest shape. And it's because we hit hardpan. And if you hit rock, that's what will happen. Don't be too alarmed about that. You just say a little prayer that that's going to come through the winter all right.
And you need that little shoot there in the center. That's going to keep it alive until at least the winter solstice, and it'll start growing out of that little center. So that's protecting that. That's all that's for.
Now, and when you put this in storage, don't be alarmed if this all dies off sort of, and some of it will turn black. Go down there and just sort of perk it up a bit, you know, pat it and take that.
These are starting to get a little bit too soft too.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh no, there you go. The thing is, don't let them touch. When you're doing this, don't, make sure they're not touching. We've nearly parted with them a few times, and we've parted company a few times, but when we had them in storage and not knowing what was going to happen to them was very frightening. If the sisters hadn't, if we hadn't been able to make that partnership arrangement with them, they would a lot would have been gone from our collection. They're very fragile things.
The only reason they do exist is because somebody grows them out, not collects them, but to grow them out is the bigger part of it. Mm-hmm. It's nice to see them in the glass jars and put away and everything, but that's so fragile. And to make it extend its own life within its own grouping, they have to be grown out. What we're trying to do is back up, and so last year we did this one, which is 2006, but we didn't do that this year. So that one gets done next year. So we're just trying to do it without growing them all out.
Here's the russet Burbank. It's an old. That's a really nice size for a seed potato. You get enough eyes on there. And then we mark how many hills we have in that bag, and that helps in the spring to figure out what you want to plant. And I always put 11 cuts, meaning there's 11 potatoes totally that can be cut.
Three inches, globe shape, 2.5, that's perfect.
We always wanted to go to Vermont. I did especially because it's easier down there. They're very, a lot of organic growers. It would have been easier to convince them to save seed there. We tried twice. We didn't succeed because of the dollar and various reasons. So here we were with these seeds in storage, came back and said, well, we can't make it to Vermont. Where are we going to go? And
We'd already sold the farm at that time, yeah.
We were homeless. The seeds were homeless. We had had some contact with the sisters.
I was off on a retreat, and I got a telephone call from Robert saying, you've got the greenhouse, we've got the seeds, can we do something together?
We said, we want to establish a sanctuary here for the seeds.
I just got really excited, and I remember going out with Robert to the field and saying, so what would you need to grow out these seeds? Because he showed us a bean box that they had. It's full now. When they came, it wasn't full.
And what a better place. I mean, it's fenced, it's in the middle of a city. We thought we could get people maybe in the city interested, because it is going to be the backyard gardeners who are going to save the seeds and take the most interest.
The Seed Sanctuary has become a well-known spot here in Kingston. In the middle of the city, it's interesting to know that at the back of Heathfield that this exists. But people from all over come, not only for Tomato Day, which is a huge happening, where they come to taste and to see the wonderful variety of tomatoes that you never see today, all produced from heirloom and open pollinated seeds. But also it's a way of teaching. Robert and Carol teach people how to save seeds. They take them out to the gardens, tell them how to care for the plants. There are weed walks. There are all kinds of educational programs. Seed savers come and meet there on a regular basis. And so it has become a very educational program here on the land.
So believe it or not, there are zillions of seeds in here. Because when you cut these off in strips, I usually cut them this way, in strips. You're going to lose some to the knife. But then you can kind of open them up a bit and get them off easier that way. Okay? After they dry, they'll get all over you. They love you. There's something about the Solanus. Isn't it wonderful? They just want to cling. But after they dry, you're not finished. You have to sit there and do the same thing. You have to sort through each seed. If you're real fussy and if you really love the seed and you want it to prosper and look good in the world of seeds. So then you separate them all. And you make sure there's none of that gunky stuff. So any questions about eggplant? It's thrilling.
Now, in the spring, you would plant them in a little pocket and
They have to be started in the greenhouse.
in a greenhouse.
Yes, same time as peppers,
What month?
the 1st of March sometimes.
To have someone to learn from, kind of role models in that sense that you can always reflect back on, and is a huge thing for myself and a lot of other people. That we talk about them a lot, and we kind of think in different situations in the garden, well, what would Carol and Robert think? You know, if there's this question about using plastics or not, or this question of watering or not, or different little complex things that would always refer back to them and trying to think of how they would solve a problem.
I've always had a garden, but I've never really thought about the seed. So I had not collected seed until meeting Robert and Carol. But once I met Robert and Carol and saw what they were doing here at the Seed Sanctuary, it just clicked that, of course, we have to think about the seed. And so the first year I was with the seed saving group, I grew out 7 varieties of their seed, beans, and the second season I grew out 60 varieties of seed and saved, using the techniques that they taught us through the year that we came to their meetings. So they've actually had a great influence on my practice of gardening. In fact, my entire life has changed in the last 3 years. I have become an organic gardener, an organic farmer, because of my introduction to Robert and Carol.
It pollinates very quickly and then it closes up again. Probably blow away. That's the seed. And so through the winter then we take the fluff away and that's what we're left with. It's beautiful, isn't it? So tiny. I was just thinking why we do this. And one of the reasons is these are such friends you've seen for so long. I think you just want to keep them with you for a little longer.
You have to get them out without breaking them, so we don't know which one will be the one for seeds yet, until we get a good look at them. Some of the littler ones too. It's hard to tell yet. Get all this off. Then we'll take them up to the barn and look at them again. We'll eat most of the ones that are too small or too big. If we're looking for the best seed possible, we have to find out what they can do. So we let them alone as much as we can. We'll take them through the greenhouse, take them outdoors, and then once they're outdoors, they have to fend for themselves. That's their domain. That's where they belong. When we talk about not watering, it's just that we don't want to baby them. If the plant can work hard, create, and draw on its memory, the seed bank memory that it has, that they know what a drought is, they know what too much water is, they know what everything is, so they accommodate themselves for that, and then start looking for the right thing. And as far as the insects and that, as long as we don't get too inundated with one, overpopulated with one variety, same with the weeds, then we can tell that everything is working right.
It's quite a cycle, you know, when you think about it. The bean plant feeds a lot of little creatures in the soil, and the bean seeds feed a lot of diseases and insects and people who will save their seeds again. It's quite a cycle, and that's why spraying and major interruptions by people are so disruptive is because it's breaking all the cycles that were meant to support a larger creation than just people.
The global seed vault, or sometimes it's called the doomsday vault, is remarkably controversial. I guess it's controversial because it's got so much attention by being a doomsday vault, by being this mysterious place that's way up in the high Arctic in Norway, that's guarded by polar bears, dug deep into a mountainside, kind of. There's this image that I think people are concerned about. Frankly, to me, it's by no means a solution to the world's problems. It is a benefit to the world to have it there, but I certainly don't think the world should be placated by it and think that they don't have to do anything else, that we now got that problem taken care of. By no means. We still have a major job of conserving seed in the gene banks and seed in the fields, in farmers' fields around the world. Where we'll see survival in getting over the problems of climate change and so on is going to be in these peripheral areas where the so-called small farmers with the minority crops and the marginal lands are the ones who nurture the diversity that's going to feed the rest of us.
Science learned how to manipulate the pollen and the flowers in such a way that they can control the breeding and produce certain fruit with the seeds in them. When they do that, they usually intensify. It's from two inbred lines, and they intensify that seed from that crossing that they do themselves, so that seed is extremely productive the first year, but not in the future. Whereas open pollinated, they're geared for the future. They're geared for sustainability because they want to go on. They want to continue.
But we can feel it. We can feel these seeds when they start to beat in the spring. We can see it in potatoes. They sprout after the winter solstice. That's the key. That's what we're waiting for. And you can open this door some morning and you'll just hear rattling with shells. Seeds are ready to go.
Winter solstice is the most important thing to us. It's the beginning. It's our new beginning of a season for us. And things start to wake up, things start to move, and we start to get the feeling that things are going to be better that year.
I love the winter solstice celebrations that Carol and Robert hold. It's a really special time and really a beautiful time, and they create something that is extraordinary, really. When you arrive in the barn, it's completely dark. They've covered all the windows, so it's pitch black. You have to be guided in. And every time the door opens, it's this shot of light, and then it's complete darkness. And that's really a mirroring, in a way, of where we are in the calendar, that it is the darkest time of the year. But it's the time that the little seeds start to stir in the earth. And that's what we're really celebrating, is the reawakening of the earth and the reawakening of the seeds. It's something that I make sure that I go to every year, because it really captures the depth of their commitment to the seeds and ritualizes it in a way that brings that magic, the spiritual element, that we're connected to forces that are much greater than we can know. Because I think that's something with Carol and Robert that they both really are committed to, which is how the faith-based part of this, that this is connecting to the Creator and to God in a mysterious, wonderful way that is not knowable, but is somehow knowable. I know it sounds like a paradox, but it's completely bigger than us and also experientially knowable in this sort of the tiniest of seeds.
There's no other explanation for it. You know, we can use all kinds of fancy words, but it's spiritual. It's just life. It's life going on and on and on, and hopefully we'll go on and on.
And because it's a fairly healthy-looking bean, you can assume it's been able to defend itself against the attacks.
If it scoots down the plate, it's usually healthy. If it sticks to the plate, sometimes there's a little egg or something that'll stick that way.
But we always leave enough seed for the birds too. We don't take everything of them.
This has been a real trip, I tell you. This has been to start a seed sanctuary and to find housing for these seeds. It's been more than we could ever dream about.